everyone, and welcome back to my channel. This is video 4 of the Breast Cancer Thrivers series. If you haven't watched video 2, deciding not to have chemotherapy, or video 3, deciding not to treat cancer, check those out before watching this video, because in today's video I am assuming that you have made the decision to go for chemotherapy and radiation, and I'm going to prepare you for both of them in one video. Preparing for chemotherapy. Well, you're going to lose your hair, and I will post a picture of my bald self here in the video. Pretty much guaranteed, unless you're on a very low dose, you are going to lose your hair. So just get ready for that. Get ready to have, days where you are just really taken out. The only thing you'll do all day long is lie on the couch. And that's just a fact of life. That's just what chemo does to you. And one thing that I never knew before going into chemo is how long each appointment would actually take. I was thinking, oh, go in, get my chemo, I'll be out in half an hour. It's more like arrive at 9, you might have to wait, there might not be a chair available, you might have to wait for, nowadays they have fancy chemo booths with, depending on which hospital you're at, with a little TV and a sitting stool and, visitor area within each little chemo booth. But back when I did chemo, it was a recliner chair with an IV pole. And one thing I never really expected was how long it was going to take. Plan for this to be a one-day event. It's not really like a quick in and out type of experience. You sit in the chair and they get your veins ready. They put in the little devices, I don't even know what they're called, the little stop devices where you can get the IV going directly in. When they came out with the chemo that's nicknamed Red Death, when they came out with that chemo, the nurse is literally wearing a full hazmat suit. So goggles, it looks like they're going into a nuclear reactor or something. They've got the full hazmat suit on, and if they get one drop of that chemo on their garb, they would be considered toxic and would have to, detoxify and go into a process. Whereas they are shooting that thing that would be toxic for them to get one drop on their hazmat suit, they are injecting that right into your vein. So you literally sit there and you watch this Red Death, they nickname it Red Death. They literally, you watch it going into your vein. Now, when I saw it go into my vein, I immediately just felt like a jolt, like it kind of makes you really dozy and really drowsy all of a sudden. So you can definitely feel the effect as it's going into your veins. And as you sit there and watch the stuff drip into you, you get more and more tired. I somehow still managed to, in my chemo experiences, one thing they would come around and they would ask me if I wanted a digestive cookie and an apple juice. So somehow I couldn't read, I couldn't focus on anything, I couldn't even really focus on having a conversation really. I wasn't aware enough to be able to do things necessarily, because it's taking a toll on your body as it's coming into your system. But the one thing I did know how to do, and that was to ask for another digestive cookie. So one of the volunteers would always come around with 3 or 4 cookies every time. So I managed to eat a lot of digestive cookies and have apple juice during my treatment. And that is about all I managed to do. And then as soon as you get home, you just feel completely exhausted, wiped out. And you're kind of in this tailspin mentally, physically, and emotionally. You're just kind of in this You've just been hit with a real dose. You have to recover from that. So for about 2 days after, it's pretty much the only thing I could really do was watch comedy movies and just try to sit there on the couch. Don't try to plan to be super productive during this time. You won't really be. Another thing I am going to talk about in future videos is I always did a colonic treatment after my chemo to get to about 2 days after to get all of the toxins out of my body. But it is quite a hit on your system, so you have to be ready for that. And I'm sure they're going to give you lots of information on what to expect during chemo. I know I had to attend, I think it was a 3-hour class before I even went to the chemo, where they told me that the highlight of my day would be taking a shower. So I wasn't really looking forward to that too much, that, you know, that would be the highlight of my day. Now it turns out I was able to do a bit more than that, but don't really think that you're going to be super productive during this time. You won't be. As far as preparing for radiation, one of the really most important things to understand about radiation is it's cumulative. So it takes time to take effect. And once it takes effect, it kind of goes on this exponential curve of major effects taking place all at once. So it starts out very slow. The first time I had the radiation treatment, I felt like I just went to Starbucks for a coffee. Like nothing happened. Like it didn't seem like anything happened at all. And I thought, wow, what were people talking about? If it's going to be this easy, this is a breeze, this is no problem. But one thing I didn't realize is this cumulative effect that starts to happen over time. And another thing to be aware, so my breast cancer was on my right side. They really targeted the radiation, and that is one good thing that they do these days, is they do it very, very targeted. So they give you these little tattoos, which is like a little purple dot, so that they can administer the machine in exactly the same spot every time, literally to the millimeter. So it's very precise. However, the area is quite large, and I think people don't realize that the area that they do the radiation on is quite a large square that they're targeting. Yes, it's targeted, but it also hits quite a large area depending on how many, what they call floaters of cancer that are still residing in your skin and your system that they're trying to really zap. The area is quite large. It takes time to take effect. The way that I really explain this is, it's like putting a turkey in the oven, and as the longer you're in the oven, or the longer you're in your radiation treatments, my treatments were 25 sessions, 5 weeks, so every day of the week for 5 weeks. As each session goes on, you feel the effects more. So the first week or so, you don't even know what's like it does. Yes, you feel the burn, but it takes time to really, for the turkey, which is you, for the turkey to cook. So, and that is another thing that they never really told me, or I didn't really understand until I went through it, was even after the radiation is done, you're still cooking. It's like when you take a turkey out of the oven, it's still cooking for another half hour. So even after, for example, in my case, I had 25 sessions, the week after, I was still cooking. So it's basically like having a pretty severe burn. It's even worse than a burn, so you can't even really describe it like a burn, because a sunburn, at least you get, you know, you get really red, it starts to scab, and then it goes away. Whereas this, you seem to always kind of have like a permanent marker of where the radiation was on your skin. So it's kind of more like a really intense burn, probably like 100 or 1,000 times worse than a sunburn. But it's like having a burn. They're going to give you suggestions for different creams and topical things that you should be putting on this burn. So treat radiation as a burn, and you're going to be cooking long past the treatments are over. And in fact, the worst time for me happened, I think it was about a week or 10 days after all the treatments stopped. I had the worst outbreak of a burn type of reaction, which was very strange to me, but apparently that's very normal. So that's another thing to get used to and to be aware of as you head into these radiation treatments. To wrap up today's video, essentially the main thing to get ready as far as chemo is get ready that it'll be a full day event. You'll probably be sitting in waiting rooms and waiting while the chemo is dripping into your system. Get ready to lose your hair. I would proactively, within a week or 10 days, I think I could already feel my hair starting to come out in the shower, and before it really all fell out, I had already booked with my hairdresser his mom had gone through cancer. He was preparing me. So he said, as soon as you feel the chunks starting to come out in the shower, come immediately, we'll shave your head. So that's another thing is whenever you feel your hair falling out, just go and get it all shaved off so you don't have to have these bald patches here and there. And also collect little hats or beanies or things like that to wear on your head. I also did have 2 wigs that I bought, and I used the different wigs at various times when I was going out. However, I really didn't like them at all because it just makes your head feel so hot. So most of the time, if I could, I would just go without anything because my head could breathe. That was another thing that I did. Essentially, to prepare for chemo is get ready that it's going to be a full day event. Get ready to lose your hair. Get ready to have those days where you might have nausea and you're going to be wiped out. And depending on if it's 2 weeks apart or 3 weeks apart or 1 week apart, by the time you're just slowly feeling better, you get the next treatment. And then by the time you're just getting back to normal, they hit you with another treatment. So it goes in a rhythm like that. And depending on whether you have radiation before your surgery, actually it's usually after the surgery, get ready that it's quite a large area that they cover. Your skin will feel like a burn on the outside and the inside, and you'll be cooking even after the radiation treatments are done. It's really not the most fun experience in the world. I don't want people to have that perception that it is a fun experience, because it's not. However, these are just some really practical tips to get ready for chemo and radiation. Let me know in the comments below what your experience was, and if you have any further questions regarding chemo and radiation.